The Game Award 2024 is behind us, and it seems there are quite a few people who are not satisfied with it this year. The GA have always been accompanied by controversies, especially over the last couple of years. These range from questionable nominees and winners, the appearance of too many celebrities that people don't care about, and who often have little to do with gaming, to last year in 2023, when award winners were given very little time for their speeches, causing massive backlash from the gaming community. Or, who can forget back in 2022 when we watched From Software getting invaded real life during their Game of the Year speech.
To my Reformed Orthodox Rabbi Bill Clinton, thank you everybody.
With so many controversies, I've seen many people on the internet calling this award show worthless or meaningless. They feel it holds no real weight and come across as nothing more than an event for gaming corporation. People seem to aggressively dislike it. If it is truly meaningless, why does the Game Awards consistently attract millions of viewers? The 2024 TGA has over 10 million views on YouTube alone, not including those watching through other content creator streams, while other award shows like Golden Joystick Awards mostly peak at hundreds of thousands of viewers. So, does the Game Awards truly deserve the hate it gets? The big controversies for this year's Game Awards were started when DLCs are allowed to receive Game of the Year nomination, with Shadow of the Earth 3 being the first of its kind. I have mixed feeling on this because it's very rare for a DLC to have such much content and at times even better quality than most games released that year. During its release, Shadow of the Earth 3 was hyped like a standalone game. It even sold 5 million copies, which eclipsed many full games released this year. And if the standard for a DLC to enter the Game of the Year nomination is to be as good as Shadow of the Earth 3, then it will likely happen rarely. Not many developers can pull off something like Phantom Liberty or Shadow of the Earth 3, and even if they do, they would have to compete with a full fleshed out game like this year's Black Myth Wukong or Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So, if a DLC has exceptional quality and a lot of content, then sure, why not? On the other hand, however, people also have valid arguments against this, pointing out that DLC requires you to own the base game and cannot stand on its own. Allowing it into the nomination could be seen as unfair to other standalone games. This decision could potentially open a Pandora's box, where less impressive DLC end up being nominated for Game of the Year. Many DLC are often shallow content designed primarily to get players to spend more money on the base game. For every great DLC, there are 10 to 15 that are nothing more than a cash grab. Furthermore, with the nomination limit being around 5 to 6 games, a DLC taking up spot could prevent fully standalone game from getting the nomination. I've seen comments on the internet theorize that Shadow of the Earth 3 inclusion in the nomination may have come at the expense of other deserving games, Space Marine 2, Stellar Blade, or even Helldivers 2, which by the way is one of the most popular games this year. While this could potentially be true, I personally don't think that's the case. Because first of all, this isn't the first time a game has received many nominations but failed to win a single award. Remember Spider-Man 2? That game earned 7 nominations but didn't win a single award. I think a game can receive many nominations but not win if the other nominees are objectively better. Again, I'm kinda on the middle ground on this topic because if the standard for a DLC to enter the Game of the Year nomination is as high as Phantom Liberty or Shadow of the Earth 3, then it's fair. However, I do think they should create a separate category for DLCs in the future. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, voting and how the games are evaluated. When the list of juries was announced, people were skeptical. Gaming journalists from outlets like IGN, Polygon, and GameBrand don't have the best reputation among the gamers. These media outlets are known for having some of the most insane take in gaming history. People suspected that the awards would be rigged. Some theorized that Black Myth Wukong wouldn't get nominated due to its past drama with IGN, and games praised by the journalists like Dragon Age The Veilguard would receive multiple nominations. However, when the nominations were finally announced, people were quite surprised to see that wasn't the case at all. Black Myth Wukong, which many believe would be absolutely robbed, ended up receiving several nominations, including Game of the Year. Meanwhile, games that have been glazed by many game journalists like Star Wars Outlaw or Dragon Age The Veilguard didn't receive any award. I think I understand why people feel this way when they see who get to be on the jury. However, people tend to focus too much on these infamous Western journalists and forget that there are other media outlets around the globe involved in the voting process. So while there is a chance that the nomination could lead in the favor of Western gaming journalists, it's probably not as significant as people think. Could the award still be rigged? Probably. And speaking of the jury, another important issue to mention is the voting power imbalance between the public and the jury. Just like everyone else, at first I thought having just 10% public voting power was ridiculous. Do games' opinion even matter at all? I mean, I'm not great at math, but even a 12-year-old knows that 90% is far greater than 10%. With such discrepancy, the jury will always outvote the public. Yet, the more I thought about it, the more I started to understand why they made this decision, and it might actually be a wise one. On their website, they said that some games are exclusive to one multi-platform. The public vote puts single-platform games at an inherent disadvantage over multi-platform titles. In addition, it is important that winners cannot be socially engineered in any way. The platform on which a game is released significantly affects the voting. But it's not just about the platform, it's also the general public recognition, which plays a major role in deciding who wins. If the voting were 100% for public, smaller games with high quality but less visibility would struggle to even get nominated, let alone win awards. Look at this year's Player Voice nominees. There are 3 gacha games. If this type of voting were standard, indie games or lesser known titles would have hard time competing with bigger IPs, even if they have better quality. Another thing worth mentioning is that most people don't judge game critically. They often focus more on sentimental value and personal experience. If a game doesn't suit our taste, we probably won't play it. This is reflected on the internet when people have no idea what Balatro is or why it deserves a nomination in the Game of the Year category. Many simply haven't played it. Some people think this poker game doesn't deserve a nomination against a big budget AAA game, despite its overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. Same thing happened with Astrobot. People were shocked when they heard that instead of Black Myth Wukong or Shadow of the Earth Tree, it was a platformer from PlayStation that won the Game of the Year nomination. Of course, many were upset. They never heard of the game, let alone play it. And if people still think it's because TGA favorability towards Sony, then why in 2021 Ratchet & Clank lost to It Takes Two, or in 2022 where Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok lost to Elden Ring, or again when Spider-Man doesn't win a single award last year. This is why public voting will always be skewed. People will likely vote for a game they are familiar with. For example, why would I vote for Astro Board if I don't have a PS5? Maybe I'd rather vote for Balatro over other big titles because I like card game. At the end of the day, it's hard to please everyone in an event like this, and I understand how it feels because sometimes one video game means a lot towards some people more than the other. Everyone has their own taste and preference, and there are always people who don't care if others say the game they play is bad because to them it's a fun game. But sometimes when the game we like doesn't receive the recognition we think they deserve, some of us might go ballistic. Hell, when someone says they think that the game you like is bad, you might defend it as if you've been insulted. If Shadow of the Earth Tree won Game of the Year, some people would be upset because they think a DLC shouldn't win the award. If it were Balatro, Astrobot, or Metaphor, people would likely be angry because this game probably have the least amount of player. Even if Black Myth Wukong won, some people would still be upset because they don't like that game. Personally, I think this year's Game of the Year nominees are solid, and I have no problem with any of the game on the list winning. I think that despite the amount of criticism, an award matters more to the developer than the player in general. Let's be real here, most people who watch the Game Awards are mainly expecting exciting announcement. Imagine if Star Wars Outlaw won Game of the Year, but we also got an announcement for Bloodborne Remaster, a new trailer for GTA 6, or even God of War 3. People would probably focus more on this announcement than on the awards winners themselves, and oftentimes, even if it is a promising IP, if it's generally unknown to the people, they will still think it's a bad announcement. People usually say the event is boring when there weren't any big new game announcement. While I understand why people feel that way because having a good announcement is really exciting, it's not something Geoff can control. Ultimately, the only way to please everyone or at least avoid upsetting everyone is to make the show generally enjoyable. I think Geoff is doing his best to make the Game Awards better. Some people may not realize it, but when Geoff allowed Muppets to make fun of him at the show, it shows that he's aware of the criticism. In fact, this isn't the first time TGA has acknowledged its past issues. In 2022, Christopher Judge gave a speech that went on for too long. Next year, in 2023, Geoff addressed this criticism by turning it into a meme where they have Christopher Judge joke about his long speech. Not only that, but Geoff also made sure that speeches didn't drag on. However, he went too far by making them too short, forcing award winners to rush through their speeches. This year, it seems the awards winners were given enough time for their speeches without them feeling overly long. Geoff seems to be taking the criticism seriously. While there is still a room for improvement, it seems a decent number of people think this year's TGA was better than the last couple of years. If Geoff continues listening to feedback, I believe TGA will improve even further in the future. I'm willing to bet that next year will have a best DLC or expansion category. Whether they backtrack on their rule to allow DLC to be nominated for the Game of the Year remains to be seen. Well, right now I can feel people think that I'm glazing the Game Award, but honestly, I kinda feel bad for Geoff Keighley. I genuinely feel that Geoff is trying to do his best to please the gaming industry as a whole, both for developers and gamers. Unfortunately, he's stuck in an awkward position where he simply can't please everyone, especially with the tension between gamers and developers being so volatile nowadays. If Geoff were to appeal more to gamers, like for example, by giving us total control over the voting, he might lose support and credibility from his sponsors. And you know what? Even if he did, some people might still not gonna like the voting result when the game they like were outvoted. On the other hand, if he appeals more to the industry, obviously no one will ever take TGS seriously anymore. I believe many of the issues faced by the Game Awards stems from the gaming industry itself, as the show ultimately reflects the state of the game industry. While it's important to criticize the show, I've seen a lot of people being rude and giving insult without offering any constructive feedback. I think we as gamers should support the Game Awards by giving it a fair constructive criticism and giving it another chance, for now at least, because it feels like we're in a game of tug of war, and if we keep hating on the Game Awards, they might decide it's easier to double down and ignore the community, thinking we're too hard to please. Despite being called a sellout by many people, the Game Award has called out gaming industry multiple times for its mistakes. Even in this year, TGA have Sven Fing, the CEO of Larian Studios, spent almost 3 minutes during his speech calling out bad practices in the game industry. I see the Game Award as a bridge that can potentially connect both gamer and developers, and I truly hope this event continues to improve in the future. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you don't like it, and I would appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button too. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.